Chapter 19. The Servant of Lord Voldemort. Hermione screamed. Black leaped to his feet. Harry felt as though he had received a huge electric shock. I found this at the base of the Whomping Willow, said Snape, throwing the cloak aside. Careful to keep this wand pointing directly at Lupin's chest. Very useful, Potter. I thank you. Snape was slightly breathless, but his face was full of suppressed triumph. You are wondering, perhaps I knew you were here, he said, his eyes glittering. I have just been to your office, Lupin. You forgot to take your potion tonight, so I took a global full along. And very lucky I did. Lucky for me, I mean, lying on your desk was a certain map. One glance at it told me all I need to know. I saw you running along the pathway and out of sight, Severus. Lupin began to snap. Oh, called him. I have told the headmaster again and again that you are helping your old friend Black into the castle. Lupin, and here is the proof. But even I trained you were how to nerve to use this old place as you are hid out. Severus, you are making a mistake, said Lupin urgently. You haven't heard everything I can explain. Cyrus is not here to kill Harry. Two more for Azkaban tonight, said Snape, his eyes now gleaming frantically. I shall be interested to see how Dumbledore pegged this. He was quite convinced you were harmless. You know, Lupin, Temwabov, you fool, said Lupin softly, is a schoolboy grudge worth putting an innocent man back aside. Azkaban, bang, things snake-like cord burst from the end of Snape's sword and twisted themselves around Lupin's mouth. Wrist and ankle, he overbalanced and fell to the floor, unable to move with a roar of rage. Black started towards Snape, but Snape pointed his wand straight between Black's eyes. Give me a reason, he whispered. Give me a reason to do it, and I swear I will. Black talked its dead. It would have been impossible to say which face showed more hatred. Harry stood here, paralyzed, not knowing what to do or whom to believe. He glanced around at Ron and Hermione. Ron looked just as confused as he did, still fighting to keep hold on the struggling scabbard. Hermione, however, took an uncertain step towards Snape and said in a very breathless voice, Professor Snape, it wouldn't hurt to hear what they have got to say. Hold it, Miss Granger, you are already facing suspicion from this school. Snape spat, you Potter and Weasley are out of bound in the company of a convicted murderer and a werewolf for once in life. Hold your tongue. But if there was a mistake, keep quiet, you stupid girl, Snape shouted, looking suddenly quite deranged. Don't talk about what you don't understand. A few sparks shot out of the end of his wand, which was still pointing at Black's face. Hermione fell silent. Vigilance is very sweet, Snape breathed at Black. How I hoped I would be the one to catch you. The joke's on you again, Severus. Black sneered. As long as this boy brings his rat up to the castle, he jerked his head at Ron. I'll come quickly. Up to the castle, said Snape slightly. I don't think we need to go that far. All I have to do is call the Dementor once we get out of the willow. They'll be very pleased to see you back. Pleased enough to give you a little kiss, I dare say. What little color there was in Black's face left it. You have got to hear me out, he croaked. The rat looked at the rat, but there was a mad gleam in Snape's eyes that Harry has never seen before. He seemed beyond reason. Come on, all of you, he said. He clicked his finger and the ends of the cord that bound Lupin flew to his hand. I'll drag the werewolf. Perhaps the Dementor will have a kiss for him too. Before he knew what he was doing, Harry has crossed the room in three strides and blocked the door. Get out the way, Potter. You're in enough trouble already. Snape. If I hadn't been here to save your skin, Professor Lupin could have killed me about 100 times this year. Harry said, I have been a didn't he just finish me off then? Don't ask me to fathom the way werewolf's mind works. He snapped, get out of the way, Potter. You are pathetic, Harry yelled. Just because they made a fool of you at school, you won't even listen. Silence. I will not be spoken to like that. Snape shrieked, looking madder than ever. Like father, like son Potter, I have just saved your neck. You should be thanking me on bended knee. You would have been well served if he killed you. You have died like your father too. Arrogant to believe you might be mistaken in black. Now get out of the way, or I will make you get out of the way, Potter. Harry made up his mind in a split second before Snape could take even one step towards him. He had raised his wand. Expelliarmus, he yelled, except that his wasn't the only voice that shouted. There was a blast that made the door rattle on its hinges. Snape was lifted off his feet and slammed into the wall, then slid down it to the door. A trickle of blood oozing from under his ear. He had been knocked out. Harry looked around. Both Ron and Hermione had tried to disarm Snape at exactly the same moment. Snape's wand soared it a high arc and landed on the bed next to the Crookshank. You shouldn't have done that, said Black, looking at Harry. You should have left him to me. Harry avoided Black's eyes. He wasn't sure even now that he had done the right thing. We attack a teacher. We attack a teacher, Hermione whispered, staring at the lifeless Snape with frightened eyes. Of we are going to be in so much trouble. Lupin was struggling against his bond. Back bent down and untied him. Lupin tightened up, rubbing his arm where the ropes had cut into them. Thank you, Harry, he said. I'm still not saying I believe you, he told Lupin. Then it's time we offer you some proof, said Lupin. You boy, give me Peter, please now. Ron clutched Scabbard close to his chest. Some of it, he said weakly. Are you trying to say he broke out of Azkaban just to get his hand on Scabbard? I mean, he looked up at Harry and Hermione for support. Okay, say Pettigrew could turn into a rat. There are millions of rats. Who is supposed to know which one he is after if he was locked up in Azkaban? You know, Cyrus, that's a fair question, said Lupin, turning to Black and frowning slightly. How did you find out where he was? Black put one of his claw-like hand inside his robe and took out a crumpled piece of paper which he smoothed flat and held out to Snow the other. It was the photograph of Ron and his family that had appeared in the Daily Prophet the previous summer, and there on Ron's shoulder was Scabbard. How did you get this? Lupin asked Black, thunderstruck. First, said Black, when he came to inspect Azkaban last year, he gave me this paper. And there was a Peter on the front page on this boy's shoulder. I knew him at once, how many times I had seen him transform, and the caption said the boy would be going back to Hogwarts, to where Harry was. My God, said Lupin softly, staring from Scabbard to a picture in the paper and back again, his front pawn. What about it? Said Ron definitely. He's got a toe missing, said Black. Of course, Lupin breathed. So simple, so brilliant, he cut it off himself just before he transformed, said Black. When I cornered him, he yelled, and the whole street to hear that I had betrayed Lily and James. Then, before I could curse him, he blew apart the street with a wand behind the Black, killing everyone with 20 feet of himself, and sped down into the sphere with the others rat. Didn't you ever hear Ron? Said Lupin. The biggest bit of Peter they found was his finger. Look, Scabbard probably had a fight with another rat or something. He's been in my family for ages, right? 12 years, in fact, said Lupin. Did you ever wonder why he was living so long? We have been taking good care of him, said Ron. Not looking too good at that moment, though, is he? Said Lupin. I had guessed he's been losing weight ever since he heard Cyrus was on the loose again. He's been scared of that mad cat said Ron, nodding toward Crookshank, who was still poring on the bed. But that wasn't right. Harry thought suddenly Scabber had been looking ill before he met Crookshank ever since Ron's return from Egypt, since the time when Black had escaped. This cat isn't mad, said Black hoarsely. He reached out a bony hand and stroked Crookshank's fluffy head. He is the most intelligent of his kind I have ever met. He recognized Peter for what he was right away, and when he met me, he knew I was no dog. It was a while before he trusted me. Finally, I managed to communicate to him what I was after, and he's been helping me. What do you mean? Breathed Harmony. He tried to bring Peter to me but couldn't, so he stole the password into Gryffindor Tower for me. As I understand it, he took them from a boy beside stable. And his brain seemed to be sagging under the weight of what he was hearing. It was absurd, and yet that Peter got wind of what was going on and ran for it. Croc Black, this rat Crookshank, did you tell him? Told me Potter had left blood on the street. I suppose he buried himself. Well, faking his own death had worked once. This works jolt Harry to his sense. And why did he fake his death? He said furiously, because he knew you were about to kill him like you killed my parents. No, said Lupin. Harry, and now you have come to finish him off. Yes, I have, said Black with an evil look at Scabber. Then I shouldn't have let Snape take you, Harry shouted. Harry said Lupin hurriedly, don't you see, all this time we have thought Cyrus betrayed your parents and Peter tracked him down, but it was the other way around. Don't you see? Peter betrayed your mother and father. Cyrus tracked Peter down. That's not true, Harry yelled. He was their secret keeper. He said so. Before you turned up, he said he killed them. He was pointing at Black, who shook his head slowly. The sunken eyes were suddenly brightened. Harry, I as good as killed them, he croaked. I persuaded Lily and James to change to Peter at the last moment, persuaded them to use him as a secret keeper inside of me. I am to blame, I know it. The night they died, I had arranged to check on Peter, make sure he was still safe, but when I arrived at his hiding place, he had gone, yet there was no sign of struggle. It didn't feel right. I was scared. I set out for you parents' house straight away, and then I saw their house destroyed and their bodies. I realized that Peter must have done what I had done. His voice broke. He turned away. Enough of this, said Lupin, and there was a steely note in his voice Harry had never heard before. There one certain way to prove what really happened. Ron, give me that rat. What are you going to do with him if I give him to you? Ron asked Lupin tensely. Force him to show himself, said Lupin. If I really is a rat, it won't hurt him. Ron hesitated, then at long last he held out Scabber at Lupin. Took him. Scabber began to squeak without stopping, whiskering and turning, his tiny black eyes bulging in his head. Ready, Cyrus? Said Lupin. Black had already retrieved Snape's wand from the bed. He approached Lupin and the struggling rat, and his wet eyes suddenly seemed to be burning in his face. Together, he said quietly. I think so, said Lupin, holding Scabbard tightly in one hand and his wand in another. On the count of three, 1, 2, 3. A flash of blue-white light erupted from both wands. For a moment, Scabbard was frozen in midair, his small grey from twinkling madly. Ron yelled. The rat fell and hit the floor. There was another blinding flash of light, and then it was like watching a speed-up film of a growing tree. A head was shooting upward from the ground, limbs were sprouting. A moment later, a man was standing where Scabbard had been. cringing and waving his hand. Crookshank was spitting and snarling on the bed. The hair on his back was standing up. He was a very short man, hardly taller than Harry and Hermione. His thin, collarless hair was unkempt, and there was a large bald patch on top. He had the shrunken appearance of a pulp man who had lost a lot of weight in short time. His skin looked grubby, almost like scabbers fur, and something of the rats lingered around his pointed nose and his very small watery eyes. He looked around at them all, his breathing fast and shallow. Harry saw his eyes dart to the floor and black again. Well, hello, Peter, said Lupin pleasantly, as though Rat frequently erupted into old school friends around him. Long time no see, Cyrus, Remus. Even Pettigrew's voice was squeaking again. His eyes darted toward the door. My friends, my old friends. Black Swan Ambrose, but Lupin seized him around the waist, gave him a warning look. He turned again to Pettigrew, his voice light as casual. We have been having a little chat, Peter, about what happened the night Lily and James died. You might have missed the finer points while you were squeaking around down there on the bed. Remus gasped. Pettigrew and Harry could see bed of sweat breaking out over his pasty face. You don't believe him, do you? He tried to kill me, Remus. So we have had, said Lupin more coldly. I'd like to clear up one or two little matters with you, Peter, if you are be so. He is come to try and kill me again. Pettigrew squeaked suddenly, pointing at Black, and Harry saw that he used his middle finger because his index was missing. He killed Lily and James, and now he's going to kill me too. You have got to help me, Remus. Blackface looked more skull-like than ever as he stared at Pettigrew with his feather-mostless eyes. No one going to try to kill you until we have sorted a few things out, said Lupin. Sorted things out, squealed Pettigrew, looking widely about him once more, eyes taking in a boarded windows, and again the only door. I knew he had come often me. I knew he had be back for me. I have been waiting for this for 12 years. You knew Cyrus was going to break out. Azkaban, said Lupin, his brow furrowed, but nobody has ever done it before. He's got a dark power the rest of us can only dream of. Pettigrew shouted sternly. How else did it get out there? I suppose he must not be named, taught him few tricks. Black stared to a laugh, a horrible, mirthless laugh that filled the whole room. Voldemort teaches me tricks, he said. Pettigrew flinched as though Black had brandished a whip at him. But scared to hear your old master's name, said Black. I don't blame you, Peter. His lot aren't very happy with you, are they? Don't know what you mean, Cyrus, muttered Pettigrew, his breathing faster than ever. His whole face was shining with sweat now. You haven't been hiding from me for 12 years, said Black. You have been hiding from Voldemort, old supporters. I heard things in Azkaban, Peter. They all think you are dead, or you had have to answer to them. I have heard them screaming all sort of things in their sleep sound. They think the double crosser double crossed them. Voldemort went to the Potters on your information, and Voldemort met his downfall there, and not all Voldemort's supporters ended up in Azkaban, did they? There are still plenty out here, biding their time, pretending they have seen the error of their ways. If they ever got wind that you were still alive, Peter, don't know what you are talking about, said Pettigrew again, more shrilly than ever. He wiped his face on his sleeves and looked up at Lupin. You don't believe this madness, Remus. I must admit, Peter, I have difficulty in understanding why an innocent man would want to spend 12 years as a lad, said Lupin evenly. Innocent but scared, squealed Pettigrew. If Voldemort supporters were after me, it was because I put one of their best men in Azkaban. The spy sat his back. Jack's face conferred. How dare you? He growled, sounding suddenly like a bear-sized dog he had been. I, a spy for Voldemort, when did I ever sneak around people who were stronger and more powerful than myself? But you better, I will never understand why I didn't see you were the spy from the start. You always liking big friends who had look after you, didn't you? It used to be us, me, and Remus and James. Pettigrew wiped his face again. He was almost panting for breath. Me a spy? Must be out of your mind. Never. Don't know how you can say such. Lily and James only made you secret keeper because I suggested it. Black hissed so venomously that Pettigrew took a step backward. I thought it was a perfect plan. But Voldemort would be sure to come after me. Would never dream they had used a weak talentless thing like you. It must have been the finest moment of your miserable life telling Voldemort you could hand him the Potter. Pettigrew was muttering discreetly. Harry caught words like far-fetched and lousy, but he couldn't help paying more attention to the ashen color of Pettigrew's face and the way his eyes continued to dart toward the window and doors. Professor Lupin said Hermione timely, Can I say something? Certainly, Hermione said Lupin counterously. Well, Scabbard, I mean this man. He's been sleeping in Harry's dormitory for 3 years. If he's working for you know who, how came he never tried to hurt Harry before now? There, said Pettigrew, shrilly pointing at Ron with his main hand. Thank you. You see, Ramus, I have never heard or hear of Harry's head. Why should I? I'll tell you why, said Black, because you never did anything for anyone unless you could see what was in it for you. Voldemort's been in hiding for 15 years, then say he's half dead. You weren't about to commit murder right under Albus Dumbledore's nose for a break of wizard who had lost all of his power. Well, you wouldn't want to be quite sure he was the biggest bully in the playground before you went back to him, wouldn't you? Why else did you find wizard family to take you in? Keeping an ear out for news, weren't you, Peter? Just in case your world protector regained strength and it was safe to rejoin him. Pettigrew opened his mouth and closed it several times. He seemed to have a loss of ability to talk. Mr. Black, Cyrus said Hermione. Black jumped at being addressed like this and stared at Hermione as though he had never seen anything quite like her. If you don't mind me asking how did you get out of Azkaban if you don't use dark magic? Thank you, gasped Pettigrew, nodding frantically at her. Exactly, precisely what I. But Lupin silenced him with a look. Black was scowling slightly at Hermione, but not as though he were annoyed with her. He seemed to be pondering his answer. I don't know how I did it, he said slowly. I think the only reason I never lost my mind in that I knew I was innocent. That wasn't happy thought, so the Dementor couldn't suck it out of me, but it kept me sane and knowing who I am helped me to keep my power, so when it will come too much, I could transfer in myself, become a dog. Dementor can't see, he swallowed. They feel their way toward people by feeding off their emotion. Couldn't tell that my feelings were less human, less complex when I was young. But they thought, of course, that I was losing my mind like everyone else in there, so it did trouble them. But I was weak, very weak. I had no hope of driving them away from me without a wand. But when I saw Peter in picture, I realized it was Hogwarts with Harry, perfect position to act. In one hint reached his ear that the dark side was gathering strength again. Pettigrew was shaking his head, mounting noiselessly but staring all the while at Black as though hypnotized, ready to strike at the moment he could be sure of allies and to deliver the last voter to them. If he gave them poor Harry, who had dared say he had betrayed Lord Voldemort, he had been welcomed back with honors. So you see, I had to do something. I was the only one who knew Peter was still alive. Harry remembered that Mr. Weasley had told Mrs. Weasley that say he's been talking in his sleep, always the same word. He's at Hogwarts. It was as if someone had lit a fire in my head and the Dementor could destroy it. It wasn't a happy feeling, it was obsession, but it gave me strength, it cleared my mind. So one night when they opened my door to bring food, I slipped past them as a dog. It's so much harder for them to sense animal emotion than they were confused. I was still very thin enough to slip through the bars. I swam as a dog back to the mainland. I journeyed north and slipped into Hogwarts around as dog. I have been living in the forest ever since, except when I came to watch the Quidditch, of course. You fly as well as your father did, Harry. He looked at Harry, who did not look away. Believe me, Croc Black. Believe me, Harry, I never betrayed James and Lily. I would have died before I betrayed them. And at last, Harry believed him, though too tired to speak. He nodded. No pedigree had fallen to his knee as though Potter's note had been his own death sentence. He shuffled forward on his knees, groveling, his hand clasped in front of him as thought praying, Cyrus, it's me, it's Peter, your friend. You wouldn't blacking out and Pettigrew recalled there's enough fifth on my robe without you touching them, said Black. Remus, Pettigrew squeaked, turning to Lupin instead, writing imploringly in front of him. You don't believe this, woolen Cyrus. I told you they had changed the plan. Not if thought I was the spy, Peter, said Lupin. I assume that. Why you didn't tell me, Cyrus? He said casually over Pettigrew's head. Forgive me, Remus, said Black. Not at all, Padfoot. Old friend, said Lupin, who was now rolling up his sleeves, and will you in turn forgive me for believing you were the spy? Of course, said Black, and the ghost of the grin flitted across his gaunt face. He too began rolling up his sleeves. Shall we kill him together? Yes, I think so, said Lupin grimly. You wouldn't, you won't, that's Pettigrew, and he screamed around to Ron. Ron, haven't I been a good friend of a good pet? You wouldn't let them kill me, Ron, will you? You are on my side, aren't you? But Ron was staring at Pettigrew with the utmost revulsion. I let you sleep in my bed, he said. Kind boy, kind master. Pettigrew crawled toward Ron. You won't let them do it. I was your rat. I was good pet. If you made a better rat than a human, it's not much a boast about better, said Black harshly. Ron, going still paler with the pain, wrenched his broken legs out of Pettigrew's reach. Pettigrew turned on his knees, staggering forward and seized them hem of Hermione's robe. Sweet girl, clever girl, you won't let them help me. Hermione pulled her robes out of Pettigrew's clutching hand and backed away against the wall, looking horrified. Pettigrew knelt there, trembled uncontrollably, and turned his head slowly toward Harry. Harry, Harry, you look just like your father, just like him. How dare you speak to Harry, roared Black. How dare you face him? How dare you talk about James in front of him? Harry whispered Pettigrew, suffering toward him, hands outstretched. Harry, James wouldn't have wanted me killed. James would have understood. Harry, he would have shown me mercy. Both Black and Lupin strode forward, seized Pettigrew's shoulder, and threw him backward onto the floor. He sat there, twitching with terror, staring up at them. You sold Lily and James to Voldemort, said Black, who was shaking too. Do you deny it? Pettigrew burst into tears. It was horrible to watch, like an oversized, balding baby cowering on the floor. Cyrus, Cyrus, that would I have done. Dark Lord, you have no idea. He was weapon. You can't imagine. I was scared, Cyrus. I was never brave like you and Ramus and James. I never meant to happen. He who must not be named forced me. Don't lie, Lord Black. You had been passing information to him for a year before Lily and James died. You are his spy. He was taking everywhere. Gasped Pettigrew. What was there to be gained by refusing him? What was there to be gained by fighting the most evil wizard who has ever existed? Said Black with terrified fury in his face. Only innocent lives, Peter. You don't understand. When Pettigrew, he would have killed me, Cyrus, then you shouldn't have died. Roared Black, died rather than betray your friends as we would have done for you. Black and Lupin stood shoulder to shoulder. Moderates, you should have realized that Lupin quietly. If Voldemort didn't kill you, we would. Goodbye, Peter. Hermione covered her face with her hand and turned to the wall. No, Harry yelled. He ran forward, placing himself in front of Pettigrew, facing the wand. You can't kill him, he said breathlessly. You can't. Black and Lupin both looked strange. Harry, the piece of vermin is the reason you have no parents. Black sneered, this clanging bit of fate would have seen you die too. Without turning a hair, you heard him. His own stinking skin meant more of to than your family. I know, Harry panted. We'll take him up to the castle. We'll hand him over to the Dementor. He can go to Azkaban, but don't kill him. Harry gasped Pettigrew and he flung his arms around Harry's knee. Thank you. It's more than I deserve. Thank you. Get off me. Harry spat, throwing Pettigrew's hand off him. In disgust, I am not going this for it. I am doing this because I don't reckon my dad would have wanted them to become killer just for you. No one moved or made a sound except Pettigrew, whose breath was coming in wheezy as he cultured his chest. Black and Lupin were looking to each other. Then, with a movement, they lowered their wand. You are the only person who has the right to decide, Harry, said Black. But think what he did. He can go to Azkaban. Harry repeated. If anyone deserves that place, he does. Pettigrew was still whispering behind him. Very well, said Lupin. Stand aside, Harry. Harry hesitated. I'm going to tie him up, said Lupin. That's all, I swear. Harry stepped out of the way. Thin cords, not from Lupin's wand. This time, the next moment, Pettigrew was bringing on the floor down and gagged. But if you transfer Peter rolled back, his wand pointing at Pettigrew too, we will kill you. You agree, Harry? Harry looked down at the pitiful figure on the floor and nodded so that Pettigrew could see him. Right, said Lupin, suddenly bursting like Ron, I can't mend bones nearly as well as Madame Pomfrey, so I think it's best if you jump, strap your leg up until we can get you to the hospital wing. He hurried over to Ron, bent down, tapped Ron's leg with his wand, and muttered, Ferula bandages spun up Ron's legs, tapping tightly to split. Lupin helped him to his feet. Ron put his weight gently on leg and didn't voice. That's better, he said. Thanks. What about Professor Snape? Said Hermione in a small voice, looking down at Snape's drawn finger. There's nothing serious wrong with him, said Lupin, bending over Snape and checking his pulse. You were just a little over enthusiastic, still out cold. Perhaps it will be best if you don't receive him until we are safely back into castle. We can take him like this. He muttered mobilo corpus as though invisible string were tied to Snape's wrist, neck and knees. He was pulled into standing position, head string rolling unpleasantly like a ghost pig puppet. He hung a few inches above the ground, his limbs feet dangling. Lupin picked up the invisibility clock and tucked it safely into his pocket. And two of us should be chained to this, said Black, nudging Pettigrew with his toe. Just to make sure. I'll do it, said Lupin. And me, said Ron savagely, rippling forward. Black conjured hair manacle from the ear. Soon Pettigrew was upright again, left arm chained to Lupin's right arm to Ron's left. Ron's face was set. He seemed to have taken Scabbard's true identity as a personal insult. Cruikshank leapt lightly off the bed and led the way out of the room, his bottle brush tail held jointly high. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for next chapter. Till then, see ya. Bye bye.